showing you our design process to figure out who patient 0 is. So we think patient 0 is Jake because John drank out of Jake's cup, and then John gave Marco his brownie, and Marco worked on a project with Susie, and Susie did homework at lunch with Nigel, and Nigel lent Charlie his water bottle. And then the other way, John rode the bus with Harrison that made her infected, and Harrison rode the bus with Vivian, which also got her infected.
Jake is patient 0. Jake had the same thing as John earlier that week. John drank from Jake's cup and gave Marco the last pieces of his brownie. Marco ate a few bites of John's brownie, and he's working on a project with Susie and Charlie. Susie is working on a project with Charlie and Marco and is also doing her homework with Nigel. Charlie goes to music with Susie. He is also working on a project with Susie and Marco. Nigel lent Charlie his water bottle, and he sits with Susie and does his homework with her. John keeps on coughing on the bus, and Harrison rides the bus with him. Harrison rides the bus with Vivian, and they talk to each other. Vivian, the affection ends here.
Hi, my name is Adrian, and this is our design process to find out who patient 0 is. First, we have Susie. Susie is the first one who passed on an illness to Nigel because she did homework at lunch with him. Then Nigel lent a water bottle to Charlie because he was coughing so bad and got Charlie sick. But Charlie didn't infect anyone, so then Susie went and infected Marco by working on a project with him. Then Marco ate John's brownie, and John was already sick. John was sick by Jake because Jake was at home earlier with an illness, so he infected John, and John infected Marco and Harrison because John rode the bus with Harrison, and then Harrison rode the bus with Vivian and got her sick. So our patient 0 is Jake. Thanks for watching.
Hello, my name is Marlene, and I will be showing you guys who patient 0 was. First of all, we'll start with Susie. Susie could have given it to Nigel because they were going to have their big scene together, and they sit by each other in the cafeteria. Then Susie gave it to Nigel. Nigel lent Charlie his water bottle when Charlie was coughing bad, and that's how Nigel passed it on to Charlie. Charlie had the allergies because of Nigel, and Charlie, I left him alone with no facts because he didn't give it to everybody else, and he stayed like that. Jake is John's little brother. John's little brother was home for preschool, the same thing earlier this week. John and Jake passed it on to John, and John was driving Harrison as Harrison was doing his homework in the bus, and how John passed it on to Harrison was like that, and Harrison passed it on to Vivian, but Harrison was talking with Vivian about his allergies today when they rode the bus to school, and Vivian pass it on to Bella. And Bella, that's how we left it. Then we go to Maria. Maria says she felt run down for 2 days, and now and Sarah felt the same thing like her. Then I put an arrow next to Sarah, which meant that that's how Sarah got sick. So patient 0 was Jake.
Jake is the patient 0 because he probably, one of his friends at school had it, and then Jake gave it to John because they accidentally drank from each other's cup, and then John gave a piece of brownie to Marco, and Marco is working with Susie and Charlie, which made them get sick also, and then Charlie gave a drink to Nigel of his water, and then Nigel and Sarah were interacting in the gymnasium. But right here, John, Vivian, and Harrison, they were interacting on the bus, and then Harrison gave it to Maria in the art class. So Jake is my patient 0, but John spread it at school.
Figuring out who's patient 0. Jake is patient 0 because John drank out of Jake's cup. John passed it to Marco because John gave him the last piece of his brownie to Marco. Marco passed it to Susie and Charlie because they were working on a project together and got sick by Marco. Nigel passed it to Charlie because Charlie drank from Nigel's water bottle and got sick.
All right, students, as you can tell, this activity is done in grades a lot lower than ours, but here is your activity to figure out how the contagious disease was spread. Open this up in Teams and go ahead and read through the introduction. There are some narrated notes that you guys can watch before you just watch this video that talks to you about these terms, or you can Google them. Give me your definition in your own words of what these terms are and how they're different. For the contagion activity, I've gone ahead and I've given you this link right here, or this data table right here that talks about Disney characters. And it's where they worked week 1, week 2, week 3. So Cinderella worked at the Soarin' ride. She worked at the castle and Space Mountain. And that's how they interacted with the people at the Disney. And so what I want you to do is using that as their methods of contacting people and being around people. I want you guys to design or come up with a way using their test results of whether or not they were tested positive or negative for the contagious disease. Figure out who came into contact with who and how we can figure out who patient 0 was. In this section right here, you can either use your stylist to draw by hand. You can use your insert, draw, or squares, circles, arrows. You can do it by hand. You can take a picture using your school computer or your phone, and you can paste the picture here when you're done. Or you can use words and explain it in like a flow chart or concept map in words if that would be easier for you. Once you've narrowed it down, then go ahead and give me 5. Again, there's no points for whether or not you're right or wrong. I want to see what your brain took you to and how you try to figure it out. There is a right answer, but I'm not taking off if you don't get it right. Go ahead and give me 5 questions you want to ask when you interview the workers that you would need to know to help you decide who patient 0 for sure is, and write them there under A, B, C, D, and E. Then go ahead and do the conclusion questions. These are important. This is kind of what you're supposed to be able to understand from this activity. Complete that and turn it in on Teams.